Black Americans have a recorded tendency of throwing rocks and hiding their hands and then playing victim when they're called out for their lack of education as Americans, not as black people, but as Americans. So I remember when Black Americans were referring to African braiders as the Africans, saying the Africans played in my hair, then African people were saying, we actually don't like when you refer to us using the term Africans because it feels a bit derogatory, and the tone and the way in which you're using it feels derogatory, to which Black Americans like, it's never been derogatory before, how is it derogatory? And it became a whole thing. And then Africans had to explain to Americans how referring to them as the Africans and African braiding shops can be seen as derogatory to some people, and had to explain African identity, especially how it's perceived in America and the reasons why that is offensive. I remember another time there were videos where Black Americans were trying African food and made like a massive show of showing how disgusting they found it and how gross it was. Africans responded to that by saying, you guys eat soul food, which fine, mean, whatever, talking about how soul food is unhealthy. And then Black Americans replied, talking about, that's so disrespectful, you don't know the history of the food, you don't know like the history of slavery, this, that, the other, we had to eat this, we had no choice. But did you not think about the history of the African dishes which Black Americans were disrespecting? What? There was another time where Black Americans said that Black British people eat disgusting British food, which is horrific, and this and that and the other, talking about beans on toast, full English breakfast and roasts and some other like mashed potatoes and random stuff like that, to which Black British people explained, you don't have a clear understanding of blackness in the UK, because most black people in the UK are from Afro-Caribbean descent, meaning that we eat our home country's meals mostly, but we also do enjoy British food. And then again, we were talking about, well, you guys have soul food for breakfast. And then once again, it's Black Americans are now the victims because we're being racist when you were the first ones that came and talked about our food. Another time, Black Americans, or Americans in general, actually, I don't think it was just Black Americans, but Americans in general were saying how disgusting Chinese takeaway looks and how racist it is to call a Chinese takeaway a Chinese, to which Asians or East Asians living in the UK, specifically Chinese people living in the UK, had to then reply saying how racist it was to call that food disgusting when Chinese immigrants that came to the UK and made Chinese takeaways had to create that food as a means of survival to cater to the British taste, and to call it disgusting was really kind of like xenophobic and showed a complete disregard or misunderstanding of UK, like, East Asian experiences. There is another example, woman. Now with this Black Scottish thing, every Black person across the world, seemingly outside of America, seems to understand how migration patterns work. So what Black people globally are explaining is that, as opposed to slavery, where Black people were forcibly moved to the Americas, and then specifically in the USA after slavery was abolished, although most Black people lived in the South, there were very specific hotspots where it was mainly safe for Black people to live, and so Black Americans mainly congregated in those spaces. Those aren't how migration patterns work for all different groups of Black people. And so most other Black people understand that whilst slavery migration patterns happen in a very specific way, so it's normal for Black people to be shocked that Black people live outside of those hotspots for Black Americans. When Africans and Afro-Caribbeans migrate, they sometimes migrate to hotspots, but Africans don't also all have an understanding of where is safe, where isn't safe, where is white, where is Black, or even have a care, because that's not a part of their history of like having to, like, if you live in Africa and you're moving to the UK or you're moving to any other country, you might not necessarily know how good or bad racism is in any one specific place, so you can move anywhere. Most Black people outside of America, or most like Afro-Caribbean people, understand the fact that you will have family in the most random places. Like one of my mum's best friends lives in fucking Oman, and I know I have cousins that live all across the world. So it's not surprising, shocking, exciting for us to find out that black people live in different countries, because we know that, because we have an understanding of how Afro-Caribbean migration patterns work, which is that they're pretty sporadic, versus black Americans don't seem to have an understanding as to how Afro-Caribbean migration patterns work, which is why they would be excited or surprised or shocked that those people exist. And regardless of whether or not certain groups of black people come up on my For You page, I wouldn't be excited, because it's just general knowledge. Like, it's not about an education system, it's not about school systems failing. General knowledge of how Afro-Caribbean like migration patterns work is why people outside of America aren't shocked to find out that black people live in Scotland. So I think that sums everything up. But once again, black British people weren't even being rude. We were just saying, oh, like, why are you surprised? And then black Americans are saying we're now shitting on them, or whatever was being said, that we're showing hatefulness, that we don't let them have a fun time. It's funny to us that that's not a general point of knowledge, that black people exist everywhere. Or like there's no need to be excited. And this is not to say that I don't think black Scottish people should get their shine. They 100% should. But like, it's not surprising. But black Americans are also denying or refusing to acknowledge the fact that in that discussion, a lot of them were saying that they believed black Scottish people to be Aboriginal to Scotland, that they didn't want black Scottish people to let Africans steal everything that they have, and that they're so much nicer than black British people, when technically, in terms of nationality, black Scottish people are black British, even if they don't identify as that. And yeah, black Scottish people and black British people do have different cultures. But black Americans don't understand that. They weren't talking about that. They were just talking about the fact they were just trying to create a divide in some weird, like, triangulation tactic to separate black Brits and black Scots, when black Scots are black Brits by nationality. So there are so many other examples of where black Americans, like the Tyler situation, they insert themselves into someone else's area, place, blackness, identity, and then when they're corrected and it's explained that they have a lack of education and understanding and knowledge because they are American, not because they're black, because they're American, then now they're the victims. And it's a constant thing. And this constant fight to make us talking about how uneducated black Americans are about blackness is really dangerous, because it is implying that the issue is blackness when it's not. It's Americanness. And it's like you're becoming the first defenders for American exceptionalism. Why are you defending that? No black British person is going to defend like poor British values, which black Brits also hold. Because we understand the negative values that we hold of Brits, and we talk about them and we discuss them, and we're happy to be called out on them. Elitism, sure. Like, being grumpy, sure. Being mean, sure. Complaining, sure. Like, all those things are very true. We would never deny them. So the denial that black Americans are under is really, like, it shows a lack of willingness to progress. Yeah, I think I've said everything.
Let me just say, because he was long-winded, and this was a video that I did cover in the live stream. Shout out, much love, respect, and appreciation to anybody who made it through the live stream and was a part of the conversation. This long-winded fool decided to say all of these types of things again, as he stated before. Black Americans, you guys like to throw a rock and hide your hand. You guys always want to play victim and da-da-da-da-da. Right, and then he went on this whole thing of like, oh, black Americans, you did 1, 2, 3, 4. You did 5 things. And, you didn't even think about how this was going to affect or even make Africans feel. For the most part, he brought up the fact that we say that we are going to the Africans to get, African braids or braiding shop or African braiding shop, whatever. It's literally the name of the building. A lot of Africans don't name their buildings anything else, especially when it deals with braiding. It's usually African braiding shop or African something braiding shop or whatever. But it's going to have African directly up there, and then braiding is going to be in there as well too. So when we say that we're going to get our hair braided or whatever, we're going to the Africans. That's what we're doing, right? If I'm getting Chinese food, I'm going to the Chinese. or if I'm getting Asian food, I'm going to the Asians. And this is what we happen to say. In no way, shape, or form are we trying to be derogatory or disrespectful to any of the groups. We're not trying to be xenophobic or whatnot, because we're referring to what it is that the food is by what it is that you are, or however it is that people want to sit up and look at it. You create the food, you create the dish, we're going to call it directly by you. That's exactly how we work. That's what it is, right? It's just crazy to me how now us stating that something is African is now going to be seen as what, like xenophobic. Like you guys are really trying to push the envelope, just trying to push things further than what it even needs to be pushed, and it doesn't make any type of sense. But it makes sense at the same time, because the only way that you guys can just so happen to highlight yourselves, your culture, your traditions, your nation, your flag, your religion, all of these things is by talking about Black Americans some way, somehow. You have to be on social media, and you have to specifically make content around Black Americans in order to highlight yourself. And the same thing I said up there said directly in the live stream, I'm going to say directly here. At the end of the day, in order for a hero to, in a sense, be shown how good it is that they're a hero, somebody has to be the villain, right? You can't just be a hero, just be out here, right, doing good deeds. Nobody's going to care. There has to be something on the opposite, right? So even though we didn't ask to be it, and I'm looking at the comments, I'm looking at the videos, I'm looking at what everybody is saying, Black Americans, in a sense, are realistically that villain, right? To put it into a better perspective, in order for you to even have Batman, you would need a villain, right? You would need somebody the opposite. The greatest villain that Batman realistically has is the Joker, right? The Joker and Batman, and Joker, that's normally how it goes. Without the Joker being there, you don't have a Batman. It's not going to even be the same story. Nothing's really going to transpire. Nothing's going to happen at all. Even when it, in a sense, dealt with Thomas Wayne, you still had a Joker there, right? And that was because Martha ended up, seeing young Bruce in another future, seeing young Bruce directly on the ground instead of Joe Chill taking the life of the parents and making him Batman. It inevitably ended up being Bruce that had his life taken, and then you had Thomas Wayne that ended up taking up the mantle of Batman, and then you had Martha who ended up taking up the mantle of the Joker. That's realistically how that went. Again, no matter how it goes, no matter how it's spent, there's always a Joker there to be the complete opposite, right? To show, the light and the darkness and things of that nature. Throughout that long-winded explanation that I just gave, the main point is this. In order for the Africans to show off how proud they are, in order for them to show off their traditions, their culture, religion, everything that it is that they are, how it is that they love their people and have such pride for, Africa or whatever nation that it is that they come from, they have to use Black Americans as a comparison in order to showcase to people like, hey, we are obviously better than these Black Americans because we know more. They're nothing but slaves. This is where they came from, right? This is all of their history. They are phobic. They, as y'all wanted to start, y'all trying to start using this word now, right? So don't be too surprised if some of y'all see it online. They're creating a word called African phobia or Africaphobia, however they want to sit up there and put it. Basically trying to say that we have a fear of Africa, right? And then they're also putting the whole thing of trying to call Black Americans xenophobic, which is trying to say that we have a fear of Black immigrants, migrants, whatever you want to call it, coming directly into America. Again, we've never had a fear of you guys. We have never been afraid of you at all. Matter of fact, you guys have been afraid of everybody else, right? It's that's not how we work. But at the end of the day, in order for you to highlight yourselves, you need us. And for you guys to turn around and sit up there and say that we're not the main character, this dude literally made an 8-minute video talking specifically and only about Black Americans while pushing his own people basically up and also playing victim at the same time, all to turn around and sit up there and say that, oh, Black Americans, you are basically stupid for being so hyped and having all of this energy towards seeing other Black people in other places, while us Africans, we know just by migration and this, that, and the third that we are everywhere. Come on, dog. This is what we be talking about. This is what Black Americans talking about every single time. Y'all get online and say stuff that y'all don't need to be sitting up there saying. And then just like I had to correct somebody in the live stream that wanted to come up, they wanted to try to tell you, oh, Seiji, you're far right, super right. You're a MAGA, you're this, you're that. And that was somebody who is, I'm guessing, looking by the picture, that was balding, older than me, overweight. You need to go get your weight and everything else checked before you come directly towards me. This person decided that they wanted to say those things towards me because of what I was saying about the Africans and the Brits. I was standing in defense, and I'm going to always stand in defense for Black Americans, because nobody should be opening their mouths that aren't Black American talking about these topics. You shouldn't be having group think pieces like that. It makes no sense. You shouldn't be having podcasts. One is about, oh yeah, for the, the next 100 podcasts we have, we're just, talking about Black American things and Black American. You're not even Black American. Like, what are we doing? That's like me having a podcast and talking about Etrians, direct. I might have mispronounced it, but like I said, you got a group in Africa that are very proud of themselves and all this other type of stuff. That's like me hosting a podcast and having Black Americans. We're at a round table and we're talking about like specific Africans directly out here, their problems, their issues, their culture, and all this other type of stuff in a whole negative light. That makes no sense. Why am I so fixated on you guys? Shouldn't I have my own business? Shouldn't I have my own things that I should be preoccupied with, that I should be busy with, things that I should be managing, both physically and mentally? Shouldn't I be doing that? And that's the exact same way that I sit up there and look at these Africans, and especially the UK Brits. Jesus Christ. The Africans in the UK, y'all really on some whole other type of time. Like I said, I don't know what type of narcotics y'all got up there. You need to drop it. Y'all need to 100% stop it, because y'all got some of the smartest minds. Like I said, we get on everybody, and we especially get on Africans. But you, as you guys like to say, you lot there, everything that y'all sit up there and say is crazy. And y'all just want to say it in such a way. It's like it comes with like such sarcasm and such like, oh, we know better, and we're this and we're that, and I'm like, bro, like y'all really want to talk about Black Americans, and you have done everything possible to make sure that you are far removed from whatever culture, whatever traditions that you have, and you made sure to take on whatever ideologies and belief that white folks have literally indoctrinated you guys with. I can't even say indoctrinated. You willingly walked directly through that door, you and your parents. Because I also got a video directly up here speaking on the fact that Africans, the parents that just came directly to a country, they will make sure the parents might know 7 languages, right? But they will make sure not to teach their kid any of those languages, because they want them so far indoctrinated into whatever society. They will leave them ignorant, realistically, of their culture, of their identity, and a lot of other things. Now, they won't sit up there and just take away the fact, like, hey, we're such and such from here. This is how we naturally talk, and different things. But you're not going to sit up there and teach them those other languages. If the parents know 7 languages, from Africa, the kids should also know those languages too. It's crazy to see these African kids get on TikTok and honestly speak on how it is that, first of all, the African parents and people also see and deem and treat and talk about Black Americans. Then on top of that, how it is that you guys run and flee directly from your countries, and you go so far as to indoctrinate your kids into somebody else's culture, into somebody else's identity. But you turn around at the end of the day and make sure that you raise those kids to say that, oh, they are proud to be this, that, and the third. How are you going to be proud of something that you ran away from? How are you going to be proud of something that you don't know nothing about? How are you going to be proud of something that your parents made sure to make you void and ignorant of? How does that work? How does that even work? It doesn't make any type of sense. But yet here we are. Here we are looking at these Black Brits, these African Brits, and how it is that continuously we see them online sitting up there saying a whole bunch of stuff that don't need to be said. Y'all got a lot of stuff over there in the UK that y'all need to be worried about. This is not one of them. And then on top of that, for you to want to step in and you want to speak for the Black Scots and the Irish and try to tell everybody who it is that they are and where it is that they belong to. Again, for the Africans, this is y'all problem. Y'all doing way too much. I don't know who's paying y'all. I don't know who put y'all up to this, but it can't be enough. It can't be enough. Like I said, the Christian Children's Fund, that was like 25 cents a day. Maybe they're giving y'all a little bit better than that. Maybe y'all got like a 360 deal or something like that. I don't know, but this ain't it. This ain't it. You got a lot of other things that you need to manage. You got a lot of things that you need to sit up there and talk about. This is just not it. Just learn how to shut up. Learn how to mind your business. Learn how to stay directly in your lane. Learn how not to be into other people's business when it doesn't specifically pertain to you. Learn how to manage yours. Learn how to deal with yourself. Learn how to actually be proud of who it is that you are and not have to use somebody else, such as Black Americans, and highlight and talk about them in a negative light or in such a negative way, so that you can do a compare and contrast, so that you can propel yourself upward while putting somebody else, in a sense, below you by how it is that you talk about them. How about that? How about you do that? Fix your countries, fix your nations, fix your people, feed your people, build your people, do that. Because Black Americans are doing that all day long. We got a lot of stuff over here to be, sitting up there worried about, but we can sit up there and make sure to make time directly for ignorance, for stupidity, when it shows up to our doorstep, and send it packing right back to where once it came. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this video and everything that I state in the comment description below. And as always, peace, love, and stay tuned for the next video.